If there was ever a walking meme of a military veteran with jacked up credit, divorces, substance abuse issues, it is me.
What's up, guys? Jason Frost. I'm here with my brother, Byron Beplay, today. He's a father, veteran, world-class dog trainer. Just won the MrBeast challenge. Thanks for coming to town, brother.
Man, it's a freaking honor and a pleasure, brother.
So I just wanted to let everybody know a little bit more about you, the work you're doing with the dogs, the work you're doing to help veterans, everything about your experience with TRT. So let's dive in, okay?
Oh, yeah, let's go for it.
So tell us about where you're from. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, I grew up in Pensacola, Florida, and spent most of my life there until I joined the military. Kind of grew up, I was homeschooled. So there's plenty of jokes there for everyone to hash at it, But yeah, I was homeschooled and, had the lifelong dream of becoming an Army Ranger. And that's what I did, and kind of went from high school directly into the military. And of course, I went in right when the war had kicked off in Afghanistan. So, that was very, man, that was a very traumatic experience for a young man to go from, because back then we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones. So, it was a lot of glory and grandeur. There wasn't a whole lot of, you didn't get the reality of what you were actually embarking on back then. If that makes sense.
What inspired you to enlist originally? Was your
family?
Yeah,
my father. Yeah, my father was in the military. My grandfather was in the military. Actually, both of them were. All of my dad's brothers were in the military. All my uncles. So it just ran in the family for generations.
Can you kind of tell us about how you started in the military, and then where you were kind of when you ended your career? So came in, did initially went to Korea right out the door. There was such a backlog going to Ranger Battalion at the time that I needed to. They weren't allowing you to. It's called holdover. So they're like, you can't sit here in this barracks just waiting on your class date. So we got to send you somewhere. So they sent me off to Korea. About 6 months into my tour at Korea, they pulled me back, went to airborne school, and then went to what's called RIP, which is the indoctrination selection to go to one of the 3 Ranger battalions. It's located at Fort Benning, Georgia, and ended up going through, had no issues. There was literally no hindrance. Like I just physically and mentally just, it was odd. I was like kind of like shocked. It's like, oh my God, I made it through all this with unscathed, no injuries, and it just kind of went from there. And then went to some more schools. Unscathed, straight through, went to Ranger School, straight through, went to the Special Forces Combat Dive Course, which is, the Special Operations Dive Course for the Army, where you learn how to use the rebreathers and all that stuff, straight through, which is the hardest physical school in the military. And during that process, it was where I really started to learn about fitness, and I really started learning, what it was to, hey, you got to take care of yourself. Like your diet, your sleep, all these things take part in your mental ability to operate, if that makes sense. For sure, man. And then you continued with the diving too, right? Yeah.
So I finished up my career, got out, and was a defense contractor for a short amount of time, and had a neighbor who was like, hey dude, you should think about being a commercial underwater welder. And I'm like, what? And so did a little bit of research, found out what they made. I was like, man, this is pretty comparable to what I was doing, and I'm not getting shot at.
It's a bonus.
Yeah, but I mean, it's commercial underwater welding. And then it's like, well, why is this job the most dangerous job in the world? And then you start seeing accidents, and you're like, oh, damn, this isn't much better. But I mean, it was definitely an interesting, career to,
do saturation diving and to do deep sea diving, walking on the bottom, doing these huge projects. Again, fitness played a huge role in that job, working quite literally under pressure, both physically and mentally.
So can you tell us about a moment or an experience when you were deployed that kind of you feel changed your life completely?
Yeah. It was one of those days. We were actually in Iraq, and we were doing a nighttime hit on a house. We got a follow-on objective that we rolled into daylight hours. Very rare that we do that type of stuff, but at this point, you're going on 24 plus hours of no sleep, and we're just moving from building to building, corner to corner, just executing this combat operations, getting into firefights and TICs. TICs stands for troops in contact, here and there. And you don't get to say timeout. It's not
base.
Yeah. And like, I'm on base. You don't get to, take a break. It's, sip on your water, do the things that you can do, pack calories where you can, and just keep moving. Because, when you're out there, you'll hear a lot of the bravado. It's like, oh, forgotten country. And when you're in the moment, it's really about your dude to your left and your right. And you're just trying to get home. It's survival at that point. And so for me, that was a pretty defining moment, because I remember I was starting to see stuff. I mean, I was just my body was just shutting down. And I remember we finally, everything was done. We were back clearing and doing what was called SSE at the time. SSE is sensitive site exploitation, where you're like looking for intel and different things. Thumb drives, hard drives, paper, anything that would lead you to another objective, if you will. And I just remember I was like, oh my God, they're going to call for exfil, and we're going to get pulled off the X, and we're going to go back to base and finally get some rest and some chow. And we did. But I remember it was just that realization that you're there. You're in it. And there's no one coming. It's up to you and your discipline and how you prepare yourself for that moment. And that's it. And if you shut down, you quit. That's why the selections in the military are so hard. That's why they're assessing every little thing, your ability to self-motivate.
I know you're a big advocate for men's mental health.
Yeah.
How has your transition been since your deployment? Does that stuff still affect your day-to-day, do you feel?
So my transition was absolutely god-awful. Like, pure trash. So, if there was ever a walking meme of a military veteran with jacked up credit, divorces, substance abuse issues, it is me. Every mistake known to man I made, and it's by God's grace that I am where I am today. No other reason. And now my ultimate goal is to help men not make the same mistake. And, that transition came through fire and trials and tribulations and lessons learned. My getting out of the military, kind of digressing back to what I was saying, I got out of this awesome job, had this idea that I was going to be, this cool defense contractor making all this money, and then divorce happens, and all the issues with, the finances and all these different things started happening. It was taxing. And so through that, I got the commercial underwater welding job. Obama sends it overseas, and we go from making $1,200 a day, in some cases, to $15 an hour in the snap of a finger. Then I have a failure here, a business failure there. And then the next thing I know, I'm in my second marriage, it's failing. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to check out. And took all the medications and all the SSRIs and all the BS that the VA was giving me. Walked out to the East Jetty Pass there in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Took every last pill that I had in those bottles, stared up at the sky, and was like, I'm checking out. Now, I call this my greatest failure. You know, one, obviously, because I failed. I'm still here, right? But because I now can speak to what my last thought process was. You know, before I went unconscious, I realized that, one, I had made a mistake, obviously, clearly, that another man or person is going to tell my story. They're going to have to, and that's up to their perception. That's up to their feelings, their anger. My ex-wife could be angry with my choice, which I'm sure she would have been. And it would have just crushed my kids. And they're the ones now left with the emptiness of not having a father. It was the most selfish thing I ever did in my entire life. And I've done a lot of selfish shit, but this was the most selfish. And so from there, I really turned my life around, got the help I needed through counseling, number one, got off all of the Band-Aid medication, started getting back into fitness, and then also alternative medicines like ayahuasca, which completely changed the man that I am as a whole and changed my entire trajectory as far as how I lead as a father, how I lead as a husband, how I lead as a business owner in my businesses that I own. And really just completely and thoroughly, again, just I was going one way and my whole life went a completely different direction.
Thanks for sharing that, dude.
Absolutely.
That can't be the easiest thing to talk about. We're happy you're here with us.
Yeah.
If you had advice for a veteran or just any man or woman that was standing in those shoes where you were at that dark place, what advice would you give them? Where could they reach out for help, or based off your experience that got you where you are today?
So one of the things, and I get that question asked a lot. And that's a great question because we go through all of this training. It doesn't matter what job you do, you go through quite a bit of training in the military. And one of the things they teach you in the military is resiliency. Like, it's insane. Like, we're like these massive problem solvers. We're figuring stuff out with little to no input. We, depending on your branch and your budget of your unit, sometimes you're literally having to fabricate stuff out of nothingness. And you're a winner. Like, you're doing all of this amazing stuff, right? And then when you get ready to ETS and get out of the military, the movie reel stops and that clacker hits and it's over. And it's like, when that ends, you're like, oh my God, like I just completely forgot what it is to be resilient. Now you become this victim mentality. Oh, woe is me as a veteran. Oh, I was in combat and I have all this PTSD. Don't fire fireworks. This whole bravado of trying to get people to feel sorry for you instead of trying to take what you learned in the military and build your empire with that and build that resilience instead of utilizing what you were and saying, okay, I was in the military and I peaked there.
Remember who the fuck you are.
Remember who the fuck you are and get it after it and stop being such little bitches. I mean, it really is. We are our own toxic community. And it sounds terrible to say that the veteran community is that way, but it's because for whatever reason, when our veterans leave service, and there's a few reasons for that, and we're going to get into that later, but we lose our sight of the goals, and in some cases, we just don't have goals anymore. We feel like that was it. We don't make new ones. You know, whatever that is. You could go to college, be a doctor, start a business, you know, and failure, though it is uncomfortable, it is growth. Like, period. You cannot grow without failure. And yeah, it's scary.
I think the best life lessons I've had came through failure or pain in some shape or form.
Right. And you still win.
And you and I talked about this at breakfast today. Like, we kind of were raised the same way in that hard military household without emotions. I've learned myself, and I think the hardest thing for a man to do is to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Admit some form of weakness, and then say, hey man, I need some help.
Right.
I've always kept everything kind of bottled in, and I'll figure this out by myself. I got this. I've always got myself through everything. And then through childhood trauma, past experience I've had in my life, I've learned more and more it's way easier to reach out, realize you have your family, your tribe of brothers.
And make sure that those things are healthy, though. Like,
of course,
you know, like some of us have toxic families. Some of us have toxic friends. You know, we don't want to be running to our best friend who's a drug dealer.
I can fix this. Yeah. I got it.
2 on cocaine, buddy. You know, like that doesn't work, guys. So that's not what we're advocating. It's like, you know, but what we are advocating for is finding the right help. And really, you can go seek all the help you want. You can go to all the counseling you want in the world. But if you don't take total, unabated ownership, accountability for your own actions. Like, I'll give you an example.
It's taken me 41 years to learn how to do that. You know, and I'm still not great at it.
It sucks because you have to die of your ego to be able to do that. And a perfect example for me is, you know, my first marriage. You know, I got married way too young. These are all things. But what is about that caused my marriage to fail, and why? Well, excuse me. I ruthlessly cheated on my first wife. You know, and people were like, "Oh, that guy's a womanizer," and that guy, you know, he cheated on his wife. And they say that. And then some men would be like, well, that was 20 years ago. You know, that's not who I am. Okay, well, that's true. But it's also called consequences. And if somebody so chooses to bring that up, they're not wrong. And they're absolutely 100% correct in saying that those are the things that I did and the person that I was then. Have I changed that? Absolutely. Is it who I am today? No, it doesn't define me. But what I will do is I'll advocate and talk about and own my massive mistakes that I made 20 plus years ago, because I'm hoping that there's a guy or girl out there that goes, damn, I need to stop running and hiding from the fact that I tried to kill myself, or I was a bad person once in my life. Maybe I should own it so much to a point in which I'm comfortable talking about it so that others don't make the same mistake, and turn it into a positive over that negative.
I agree with that. I mean, for myself, I have to go through the experience to learn, yep, Byron was right, or whoever told me you shouldn't do that. You know what? They had a point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like, you know, listen to your elders, because, you know, my mom and dad were like, you're marrying too young. You don't need to be doing this. I wouldn't do this. This is going to end badly. And boy, were my mom and dad ever so right. They're going to laugh when they see this. So, you know, they're like, yeah.
Told you so.
I told you so. Or my dad would be, he doesn't go, I told you so. He goes, I don't think I need to say it, do I? It's like, you just did, Dad.
I told you, one of my favorite quotes is, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Right.
I think that God kind of puts us through experiences in life so that you can kind of help others.
That's right.
Who are going down that same road while you're walking back.
You can be both sympathetic and empathetic, and be able to, I mean, I'm not going to listen to somebody who's been fit their whole life and tell me what it's like to be overweight when they've never been overweight in their life, or they've never struggled with that. or somebody who is growing up in a billionaire home talking to me about poverty. I'm going to want to hear from the guy
Walked a mile in those shoes.
and be able to say, hey, like, I've been there. I understand what it's like to struggle with PTSD. I know what it's like to have flashbacks. I know what it's like to have a business fail and lose millions of dollars. I know what it's like to come back and have a really big one, and, one of the things that I always like, there's a couple things I'll tell veterans, seek help, take ownership, make sure the help you seek is healthy ownership, because I always tell people, like, oh, I'm going to go see a doctor. Okay, cool. But remember, Dr. Kevorkian was still a doctor. Doesn't mean he was a good one. He was still a doctor. So, find the right help that is required for you. And then also, that ownership, because it doesn't work if you can't take ownership for just yourself. You're not there for anybody else but you, and you cannot make excuses and blame your behavior on what somebody else has done to you. And then ultimately, when you're sitting in the mistakes that you've made, the ultimate goal is to try and obviously not repeat those mistakes ever again. Things happen, but understanding that you have to continue to grind, and you have PTSD, say, like, we'll make up a scenario where you had a business, it failed, but you're scared to start another one because you don't want it to fail like it did last time. That's okay to be scared, because in that moment, it takes that courage to follow through, because without fear, there is no bravery and courage. So you have to drive through that to have that great accomplishment.
That fear is, I think, what gives me my business drive.
You have so much responsibility.
You have to dive into it head first. You need to be fucking obsessed.
And there's no out.
And your biggest fear is failure.
What's your plan B? If someone asks me what my plan B is, and I've said this hundreds of times, if anyone's followed me on any of their podcasts, I don't have one. There's never a plan.
I'm my plan B.
Right.
I don't have mommy and daddy, hey, I can't cover my car payment this month. My family doesn't eat unless I'm successful.
No one's coming to save you. You have to know that, because, and I saw it as an instructor when I was a pre-combat dive instructor. I would see students, and I could tell you who would pass pre-scuba and who wouldn't before they ever touched the water, because people were already looking for the out. The moment their toes touch the water, they're already looking at the gunnel, or they're looking somewhere else. But the guy that was staring straight up at the sky, not caring about what was going on, was the one that was focused and was not giving himself that out. All I got to go do is swim over to that wall and ring that bell. But the guy over there sitting there staring at that bell, guarantee you at some point he's going to reach a low, he's going to hit that gunnel, and he's going to get out of the water and ring the bell. If you don't give yourself an out, you won't take it.
Well, I'm super proud that you've turned everything around. Things seem to be going great for you. What was the moment that you decided, hey, I'm going to go from the military to starting this elite dog training company?
So, that was a complete and thorough accident. So I had been out of service for quite a while. I was training dogs as a hobby, and my beautiful wife, she walks in and she looks at me. She goes, you mean like, I don't remember, something like $30,000, $35,000 in a year just on a hobby? And I was like, I guess I didn't see that money. It was in my, I was paying my custody battle, or whatever. And she was like, yeah. And I was at the time working in a hospital, and I was just fed up with the hospital, fed up with working in that environment and the, pretentious people. And I just walked in, grabbed all my stuff, quit, came back. I said, I'm taking your advice. I said, we're going all in on the dogs. And within our first month, I think it was something like $40,000 that we did.
Hell yeah.
in profit. So what we did in a year, we did in a month. She walks in, she was still active duty at the time, and she's all teary-eyed. I'm thinking like somebody died, and I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, we made 40 grand this month. I've never seen this much money in our account, and it didn't take long. I think we were in business for about a year, doing it literally out of my backyard. I was told I was dumb for doing it because I was in the largest concentration of dog trainers in the country, I think is what they said, or someone said. I could be wrong, but that's what they said. There was like 380 dog trainers within a 100 square mile radius of where I was at. Something insane like that. And I literally just was like, all right, what are they all doing? All right, cool. Here's their gaps. Almost none of them were personable people, cranky, just jerks or whatever the case may be, pretentious, bad vibes, whatever. And so we're going to do better. We're going to make it happy and fun, right? And it should be, right? It should be a great experience. So we created BTS Canine, which is Be the Solution, and to build out that relationship. And within, I think, about a year or so, we had built a 12,500 square foot training facility, all AC'd, indoor, with an outdoor training area as well, which made us the largest training facility on the Eastern Seaboard, and we became number one in the Emerald Coast.
And now you guys are you personally are at a point where you're giving back and helping veterans with service dogs with the 22 Foundation.
Yeah, so Rescue 22, which is actually part of the reason why and how I got into dogs, because my interest in dogs came because when I had my suicide attempt, the VA wanted to put me on meds. And I said, absolutely not. I don't want to do that at all. Well, they're like, well, if you don't take your meds, we're going to take away your disability. And I'm like, that's my retirement. Like, you can't take that away. So I basically was like, all right, well, there's got to be a solution to this. So I had a really good practitioner at the time. We were actually friends outside of the VA. And he was like, yeah, dude, I think we can get you a service dog. So I was like, all right. So I come in, they hand me a card. We'll leave that company's name unnamed. And it was like, they won my credit card. They wanted to take a deposit of like something like 15 grand or something crazy like that, or 32 grand, or I think total was 32 grand. And they wanted a deposit of 15 or something. It was a long time ago. And I'm like, yeah, I can't freaking afford this. So I ended up calling a buddy of mine, and then thus ensued the Rescue 22 Foundation. And I was the first recipient of a dog, and started training with my dog. I had already been doing a little bit of training and classes and here and there's, but really dove into it because I didn't realize how much I needed a dog. I needed that purpose in my life. So I just became thoroughly obsessed with almost everything I could possibly imagine. You could possibly imagine with a dog, whether it be behavior modifications, obviously the obedience side of things, advanced obedience, sport dog, bite dogs, military working dogs, odor tracking, you name it. I was knee deep in that, all of it. And it just became this obsession. And then, of course, people started coming to me to train their dogs. Had a buddy of mine that I partnered with for a while that helped me, mentor me in that whole arena. And it just grew from there. And then we were then training dogs for veterans at no cost to the veteran.
That's awesome.
And
you guys specifically use rescue dogs too.
Yeah. So our motto is saving two at a time. And so as you know, perfect example, our mutual friend Johnny, he has a service dog named Loki. Loki was 24 hours from being put down, like literally on death row. And they were literally told us, like, dude, we have to get this dog right now or the dog is getting put down.
For behavioral issues?
No. Just too many dogs in the shelter. There's nothing wrong with his dog whatsoever. Like, we don't usually train dogs that have behavioral issues. They just can't be service dogs because once it's a service dog, it's full access. It doesn't work on planes and stuff like that.
That dog's a stud now.
Dude, his dog, we got his dog. And it is he's such a great dog. Like, he is such an amazing animal. And it's like, and it's sad because you look at this dog, it's spent its first year, 2 years of its life in a shelter or in a crappy home or whatever, where they just dump it off at a shelter. And now we saved it and he's got the best life ever. Well, I mean, he's hanging out with a Marine half the time, so I don't know how good that can really be. So, I mean, he's probably pooping crayons and stuff because he's feeding them to the dog. Who knows? I love you, Johnny. So, he's a Marine for all of you out there.
So let's talk about your new YouTube celebrity status. You're the most famous guy in my kids' circle of 5-year-olds.
Depending on context, that could come with charges. So yeah, I won the MrBeast challenge on his about 2 videos ago. It was would you drown for $500,000?
I watched that. I would probably not get in that tank.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a tank. It was
you did the buried alive
yeah,
too. Sorry.
It was so we had they threw me in the ocean. Then they made me climb a huge tower, or it wasn't a tower. They hoisted me up 100 feet on the apparatus or the swinging cage of death. I forget the name. Stuck me in a room with a 1,000-pound bear, buried me alive.
Tried to blow up your money.
Tried to blow up my money in a minefield. I had to drive vehicles, not physically me, but like remote controlled cars through a minefield, which was pretty nerve wracking. I had to climb, which was the hardest part of the entire challenge. Climb I think it was a 50 or 75 foot tower with all of my money hanging off me, free hanging. And then I had to protect my money from a massive bomb that was going to be dropped on it. I had to build a bunker to keep my money from burning up.
That's awesome. And we were talking about manifesting this morning and kind of how how stuff in life and God kind of his timing's never wrong.
Never.
So
it's wild.
Manifesting like that you needed some opportunities in your life and some ways to fix some problems that were happening on the ranch, and then you got that phone call and how everything kind of played out.
It was the wildest course of events that's really ever happened, and really to me in general. But we had a tractor breakdown like that week that was, close to 80 grand that we needed to buy a new tractor. My sister and my wife were sitting at this like food truck place that we go to in Defuniak Springs. And she's like, we're going to manifest this. And everybody manifested it. I had just finished reading this specific book. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now. Yep, we have it. I went off to this course up at T1G in Tennessee, and my phone rings. And they're like, hey, this is MrBeast. We want to have you on the show. I'm like, who are you? I don't know who this is. Call my wife and my kids. They begin to scream. You have to do it. Who is it? I don't know. They're like, how do you not know who this guy is? He's the #1 YouTube channel in the world and TV show all the way around.
I had no idea until you and I linked up.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not in our realm, but every single kid knows. And so much so that like I walk through Walmart and I get recognized by kids. I stay clear of the toy aisle.
Daddy, that's the guy from the internet.
Literally, man. It's the funniest thing I've ever like endured. Or sitting on an airplane and a group of like girls go to cheerleader camp or something, like walked onto the airplane and like, you're the guy from MrBeast. And I was like, yeah. And then they are actually getting angry with them because they couldn't get the aircraft loaded. And they're like, you can get your pictures when we're at altitude. I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But, or even in the Bahamas, we just went on a cruise and my son's standing there with me and the whole family was like, you're the guy from MrBeast. I was like, yeah.
What's that like for you now?
It's weird.
I can imagine.
It's definitely weird. I like that I now have a platform where I can actually be heard about motivation and people hearing what I have to say, because I think we have a huge deficit with masculinity in today's world, and what right looks like. Not saying that I'm right all the time. but I feel like I'm a fairly decent example of masculinity.
In my house, if you ask anybody, I'm right 100% of the time.
Well, my wife will laugh at me if I said that.
Oh, my girl's laughing right now.
Yeah, it's like she feels it. But yeah, I really, 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 wish more men would be more confident in themselves, and not just men, but just people all the way around. And I get like people look at what I did on MrBeast and they're like, "Wow, how are you able to be thrown in the water with a big boulder chained to you and undo yourself and you were so calm?" Well, panicking isn't going to do anything for me. So here's my mental process on that. Or like and quite literally,
You were shitting yourself a little bit with the bear.
no,
No?
not really. The bear was actually one of the easier challenges just because I'm a dog trainer and I understand animal behavior. If I didn't understand those things, it would have been a lot worse. There were a few times where I was like, this is getting sketch because he like took the bag from me. They did have a safety guy and I went to go grab the bag. This is all behind the scenes stuff. And he was like, no, like flat out. They of course cut that out. And I was, and the bear just like perks up and I see the bear like I'm like, ooh. But they caught the reaction after that because then I was like, they're like, you look so calm. And I'm like, at that point I was like, realizing that the bear could be like, it's not like my dog where he'll be like, oh, you took that from me. I might nip you or do something, like
That's a little bit bigger than a nip.
that bear nips me or swats at me. I'm going to have some problems, so, but the hardest thing and the questions I get the most was my climb. And that was bar none.
Would you say that was more mental or more physical?
Both equally because it was, brother, I tell you, that was the hardest sprint I've ever done in my life. Out of anything I've done, to include Special Forces Combat Dive School.
That workout this morning we did almost killed me.
I mean, I definitely reached muscle failure, but when I say that, like, so if you watch some of the other podcasts, I talk about it in there where it's like, my son sticks his head through the curtain and he looks at me and he says, "Hey, Daddy," and he waves at me. And I remember I was getting ready to climb. I had my arms up on the railing. And I like looked down and Jimmy actually is like, "Are you praying right now, bro?" And I was like, and I wasn't. I was actually like tearing up because I realized my whole family's standing outside. And I said, wow. I'm either going to go to the hospital tonight with ripped out rotary cuffs and my shoulders not being attached to me, or I'm going to be dead because I'm sure as hell not going to let my son or my family see me quit ever on anything. And it was, as I was climbing, I had this whole plan in my head that I was going to like throw some of the weight over one of the bars and it was going to relieve me. And I was like, I got halfway up and I'm like, the longer I stay on this wall, the more gas I'm going to be.
Muscle through it.
And I just muscled clear through the whole thing. And everybody's reaction, nothing was canned. Like Jimmy's like, oh, and after the whole thing is done, I find out that like nobody had passed it. Like
when they test the testers,
the testers. Nobody had passed this one.
So you were set up to fail.
I mean, I don't think I was set up to fail, but I think they had pretty high confidence in me. They still do, but they literally. One guy was like, "I got my plane ticket to leave tonight. Guess I'm not leaving." It was like pretty humorous, and but that night was rough because I did that climb after being buried alive.
Same day,
same night, 1 hour apart. So they literally like buried me alive.
Your family was pumped. I watched the ending of it. Everybody was super excited.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of lead up. We had some weather issues that kind of delayed some of the filming that we had and then we had to transfer sites for some weather bands and stuff like that were going on. But literally, the crew was phenomenal. And then obviously the very next morning, we rolled out of me climbing and I had to drive quite a long ways to the next site. I was trashed. And they don't show it a lot, but it was, I think it was 8 hours. I think I finished my apparatus in about 6 or 7, and I was limping because the weight of that money was 200, and I think they said it was 225 pounds total. And it was hanging off my left hip, off my harness. And so I was cattywampus the whole way going up that wall. And I'm like, ugh, and I'm trying to drag that left hip. I'm like, ugh. And then once I got my leg where I wanted it to be, and then at one point I slipped. And I actually don't even remember slipping, but I don't know how I was able to hold my weight and all that weight with my grip. I don't. I was like, I saw that. I was like, oh, I do remember doing that. But I was like, how did I not completely lose my grip? Like, that's insane. So
I want to chat with you a little bit. We touched on male confidence, masculinity. I want to talk a little bit about TRT.
Yeah.
Your experience, why you think it's important for veterans to get tested, and kind of what you feel we can do better to help veterans.
Yeah.
So that they're not going through some of the experience like you mentioned at the beginning of the show.
Absolutely. Low testosterone is a real thing. My experience with the VA, when I got checked out by the VA was like, you're within limits, you're good. And I'm like, there's no way. The range is so broad, it's insane.
It's the largest range of any biomarker on a blood test.
It's insane. And I don't understand why. That's getting into my conspiracy theories, but
we don't have enough time for that.
Yeah, not enough hours in the day. But as a veteran, especially our operators, guys who've deployed, all that stuff, the breaching, the launching of mortars, all the different explosions, everything you went through, it affects you. The heavy metal toxins, all that stuff. It just decreases. It affects your pituitary gland, affects all of those things. And it also affects your mental clarity. For me, when I finally got checked, after my suicide attempt, my levels were, I was probably very close to menstruating. I wouldn't, you might as well call me Byrina.
I'd like to unsee that picture in my head right now.
Come on, man. Beautiful hair, makeup, less facial hair, I'm beautiful. But I also had, speaking of which, I had literally no confidence in myself. None. Sex drive was non-existent. Everything was trash. I had no motivation to get out of bed to go to school. I had no motivation to really do anything. So the VA wasn't doing anything for me, and I was trying to do all these over-the-counter things from GNC, and I got in really good shape, but I wasn't also putting on any muscle at all. I have photos on my Instagram of back then when I'm rail skinny, shredded, but no matter how much I lifted, no matter how many calories I took in, there was no muscle growth. My growth hormone was shot, and my testosterone was shot. So there was no ability for my body to grow. And I still felt like trash. I felt hungover all the time. And I wasn't drinking, so I assure you. And for us, I think it's one of the most crucial things men should do. Whether you actually physically need the testosterone or not, I think, in my opinion, and I am no medical professional at all, but men should at least every 6 months to once a year go get their levels checked to see where they're at and see where their deficiencies are. To
males and females. My goal when I wake up every day is to get as many men and females to just do their blood work.
Absolutely.
That's my ask of everybody.
That's it.
Let's see what's going on, pop the hood, see what's causing these issues, and then the ball's in your court.
Right. Exactly.
Take our recommendations from our medical staff and do what you like with it. if we can help you, that's amazing. Last week we uncovered a patient that had a cancerous cyst. It was a female patient, but
That's insane.
she was going to the same
That's amazing.
OBGYN for the past 20 something years, never found it, but our comprehensive blood work showed it. We recommended, hey, you need to go do a further consult with another OBGYN, get a second opinion.
That's amazing.
Sure enough, found out she had a cancerous cyst. She's getting it removed next week.
Wow.
That's the most rewarding part of this business.
You saved a life.
Saving people's lives, hearing from everyday guys and veterans how their life has changed, how their marriage is great, how now, hey man, it's awesome. Now I have all this energy to play with my kids. I'm coaching their soccer team. I got a promotion at work at the fire department.
And that's the other thing that is like when you have that mental clarity and you find out where you're deficient and then you fix all of these hormonal issues, you now have the physical ability to work on yourself, because if you work on yourself in that state, you're not going to have the clear mind to work through those problems, those issues. Once you have that clear mind and you have everything else fixed, you're the sky's the limit for you at that point.
Our biggest problem is we're not practicing preventative medicine. Most of us, we're waiting until something goes wrong.
Right.
We're humans. We don't have a check engine light, and
we're reactionary,
and just waiting and thinking that this is going to get better on its own. You're just sabotaging yourself even more.
That's right. And really, there's, you know, I can't tell you how many people I hear all the time tell me, or I hear people say, I'm fine, I feel fine, I'm good, I don't need it.
You get used to feeling like shit.
Right.
You don't remember how great you felt when you had your hormones balanced when you were in your 20s and early 30s.
Right.
You're used to, oh man, I'm just getting old. I guess getting out of bed sucks and my sex life sucks and I'm going to get a beer belly.
Right. Or, you know, even more so, like for me, one of the things that I realized that, you know, there were several things that helped with my arthritis, but one of which was my hormones. I saw a huge decrease in my joints being just so stiff all the time. You know, and then a combination of a few other things that I've done.
Got a couple great peptides. A lot of our athletes and veterans are using them for
insane
injuries like that. Yeah, the technology and the science has come along so far, and it's awesome because it's becoming less taboo.
Right.
To talk about. I mean, you sharing your experience and other guys letting people know that there is help and that it's okay. This isn't, you're not taking steroids. You're not going to become Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's the biggest stigma is like people are like, you're taking steroids. Well, yeah, you are taking testosterone, but you're not abusing it. You're doing it underneath the doctor's supervision. It's not going to be, you know, in the argument that I got into recently with somebody said, oh, it's performance enhancing. No, it's not. It's literally putting yourself back into what's called homeostasis. So like you're leveled out where you should be. Period.
It's the same thing. If you went to the eye doctor and they said, "Hey, Byron, you need to wear some glasses because your eyes are messed up."
That's a great example.
It's the same thing. Hey, we did your blood work. Your testosterone's out of range. We're going to give you a proper dosage to get you back to where you should be, so you can feel like you're yourself again.
Exactly, and that's it. And I mean, and that could be a low grade, or that could be a high grade. It just depends on, you know, what that individual is going to need and what that practitioner says is in the best interest of that patient. And that's exactly what you guys are doing. That's why I literally am working with you guys, because your protocols are, you're not blanketing everybody on something. You're literally building a protocol to
everything we do is custom tailored. There's a lot of these clinics out there that are just doing cookie cutter. Hey, you have low testosterone. We'll see you in 6 months. Here's your box of goodies, and no customer service. What we do, I like to consider concierge medicine. Everybody has access to our medical staff, our patient coordinators, even my personal cell phone. I want to thank you for being here. Just to wrap up, I want to just ask you. So the name of your training company is
BTS. Yeah.
Be the Solution.
Yeah. Be the Solution, or BTS K9.
What does that mean to you? What does Be the Solution mean?
Don't ever, if you come to me with a problem, you better have a solution. And your job as both a man or as a person in this society is to always be the person to your left and your right's solution to their problem. And if you can't be someone's solution, learn how to be the solution.
I say this pretty much the same thing in my house all day. Be an asset.
Be an asset, not a liability.
You posted something the other day. I'm pretty sure it was you that posted it. It said, if you had the opportunity to walk your younger self home from kindergarten on the last day of school, what would you teach them or what would you tell them? That was you, right?
That was me.
Okay. I was creeping your Instagram.
Yeah, I do a lot of those types of things because I think that way a lot and I read a lot. And
so what would you tell your younger self on that walk home?
Resiliency. Don't forget resiliency and all your lessons. I wouldn't, people always ask me if I could go back, what would I change? And I would never change anything. But the one thing that I would tell my younger self and the things that I tell my children and show my children is resiliency. If you're being bullied, which I was ruthlessly bullied growing up, who cares? Use it as fuel. Don't let it break you.
How'd you get bullied at homeschool?
Dude, my mom was just, I'm just kidding. No, mostly at church, and I that's part of the reason why I was homeschooled. So when I initially was in school, I was bullied younger because I had a learning disability. I had dyslexia, which is
I had that too.
So it was one of the worst cases. As a matter of fact, in my junior year of high school, I could only read like on a second grade level.
That and a stutter. I still have the stutter a little bit.
Yeah. I just got terrible cotton mouth today. It's not a stutter. I just need water. But no, but yeah, that's what I would tell my younger self, and really and honestly, my kids and the kids out there today is that, don't let someone's negativity destroy your life and drive. Use it as fuel. And if someone tells you that you can't do something, obviously within the limits of the law, but like they told me, you'll never be an Army Ranger. You're never going to be a diver. You're never going to be a pilot, and I went out and I did all of those things and I proved them wrong. It's not about, and I'm not seeking approval. It's more of, I'm proving to myself that I can. And, I actually had a lot of people on MrBeast when I turned around to the camera and I said, a lot of people said I couldn't do the things I said in my life. And I'm going to show them that I can. And it's not that I'm trying to seek their approval. It's that I'm trying to show the world that you can. It's just all up here.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, thanks again for coming on. I'm looking forward to seeing more YouTube challenges and more successful businesses in your future. If anybody wants to learn more about BTS or Rescue 22, where can they find that information?
Go online, btsk9.com and the rescue22foundation.org.
Awesome. Thank you guys for checking out the show today. Have a great day. God bless.
Boom.